Hey, what's up? It's Bill Smith. And I caught this thread on Twitter on an account I've never heard of. So, underscore Vachel Lindsay underscore. Good for you for putting this together. Thank you. This is cool stuff. It talks about the stuff in Pennsylvania in the elections. And it's interesting because we just had this election, I guess, last week. Okay, so today is March 21st, 2018. So this was 6 days ago, March 15th, 2018. So this was an article written anyway. I'm not exactly sure what the date was. But it was close. Like, it was off by just like a couple hundred votes. And the Democrat candidate won. And Trump campaigned really hard for this guy. He was the Republican candidate. So, yeah, so they lost. So there's been a lot of like rumor and speculation, people tossing around stuff. Someone said that somebody said this is this is so bad. It's like internet gossip, you know. I read that someone said there were reports of people from bus lines who said that they bust people in to vote. I don't know if I believe that because I didn't see the reports myself. I want to believe that. I want to know that there's evidence for it, but I don't ever get my hopes up on these things because usually they never work out the way you think they will. Generally, nothing ever happens, so I'm just saying that's what other people are saying. The same old stuff when you lose an election, basically. People are being bussed in, so-and-so couldn't vote, the voting machines were rigged. But that's what they're saying. Okay, but the Democrat candidate did win in a very, very close race. Okay, so this first link that she's pointing to, saying that the DOJ just pushed out a press release, and this is what it points to, and it's on justice.gov. So it's government, it's official, it looks like anyway, and this was on March 20th, so this was yesterday. And it says that this guy, okay, he's a Philadelphia area political consultant, like in the area where we just had the election. He's in that area, right? He's a political consultant, and he's being charged with an indictment, and superseding indictment. I don't know what that means. Maybe that's like indictment and all kinds of other stuff. I bet that's what that means. But he's being charged with an indictment or indicted with obstructing the investigation of the Federal Election Commission. So there's been an investigation into election fraud, I'm guessing, or campaign financing, and he has not been cooperating. So he's being named openly. So some of the people out there that have talked about that giant list of like, I don't know, 1 million sealed indictments, do you think it's possible this was one of them? You know, and it's being unsealed? Maybe. I think so. So I don't want to go into like all the details here, but it talks about basically this guy. His name's Kenneth Smuckler. That's the guy they charged. That's in the indictment. There's what is this? Indictments with a Z? There's a misspelling on the Department of Justice website. Okay. That makes me think. Anyway. So he was funneling money to different campaigns. And he announced, the interesting part about it though is it pretty much just calls out him. Like just the one political consultant that you've never heard of and I've never heard of, but is in the Philadelphia area after a really tightly contested House election. So it doesn't name anybody else. It says he was engaged in a falsification and obstruction scheme involving a candidate for the Democratic Party's nomination for member of the U.S. House of Representatives in 2014. And it talks about routing campaign contributions and illegal finance stuff told the campaign through another political consultant, through the candidate, so it never really names who he's working with or on whose behalf he's working for. Just basically, they're just charging this guy with obstruction, like he's not talking, and they want him to talk. So they unsealed this indictment, it looks like, and they're publicly posting that, hey, we're unsealing and we're indicting this guy. I guess is that what that means? That's how I read it. Okay, and it's a superseding indictment, and I'm not sure what that word means again, but it seems important, and I bet it means that it's involved with a whole bunch of other stuff. Like they're indicting him one time for a bunch of things that he won't talk about. Okay, so the plot thickens, right? So this is the guy. So this is the dude, and Bob Brady is the Congress guy that he was protecting in that article, it sounds like. He's a swamp rat. And he isn't seeking re-election. And, well, we're all guessing that's just because he's corrupt. So this is the guy, right? One of these guys. One of these guys is the congressman, and one of these guys is Bob Brady, the guy's Kenneth Smuggler. So, okay, so here's the two dudes. And the congressman has two indicted strategists, and they came out swinging after the hearing. So this was about 5 months ago. And it says that U.S. Representative Robert Brady, he's got two indicted political strategists. And they got caught so bad that they're not even denying that they did it. They're just saying that they didn't do anything illegal. Okay, and what they did is they helped funnel money to the current Representative Brady's opponent in this election, and that guy's name was Jimmy Moore, and he was a Philadelphia municipal court judge, and they were going to funnel money to him and get him to drop out of the race. So they're just going to buy him off. And they're saying that's not even illegal. Denying that they had committed crimes and vowing to give prosecutors a bruising fight at trial. I bet they're done. It sounds like this is pretty bad. Making their first appearance in federal court, Ken Smuggler and Donald D.A. Jones pleaded not guilty to charges they had conspired to hide $90,000 payment from Brady's campaign 5 years ago to persuade a primary challenger to drop out of the race. Now, I'll bet that Representative Brady knew about the $90,000, okay? And I bet that's why that guy got indicted. Because I bet campaign finance is probably the easiest thing to convict on. I don't know. The other stuff seems like it's going to happen, but this seems like low-hanging fruit. The easy stuff to go after. All right, so I'll get through the rest of this quick. The rest of it points at the Clintons. It's like they got their hands in everything. Okay, now the Ken Smuggler guy I told you about, the indicted political strategist who's not talking, he's all up with this woman named Marjorie Margolis Mezvinsky. And here's an article that was just released yesterday talking about feds file additional corruption charges against that dude. And in here, it says this time allegedly involving Marjorie Margolis Mezvinsky's attempt in 2014 to regain a seat in Congress. Now, is that the year? Okay, so 2014 in Congress, in that area, and talks about 2012, into a federal campaign committee and obstructing an FEC investigation in connection with a 2014 congressional campaign of a different candidate. So he was doing this in 2012, the stuff I just showed you about. Okay, that's the Brady stuff. And then in 2014, he was up to the same shenanigans and involved trying to get this other woman elected. Okay, Marjorie Margolis Mezvinsky. Got it? Okay. So who is Marjorie Margolis Mezvinsky? Well, she ran for Congress, okay, out of Philadelphia, it looks like, And she's Chelsea Clinton's mother-in-law and a longtime Clinton ally. That's insane, right? And there's this article here. It's got Huma Abedin mentioned in it, and an email thread from 2014 in WikiLeaks about a sensitive topic, how to manage a complicated relationship with Chelsea Clinton's mother-in-law. Okay, Chelsea Clinton married her son, Mark Mizvinsky, in 2010. So the Clintons were helping to get her elected, it sounds like. And why would they not? It's basically like they're related at this point by marriage. So they're trying to get a crony elected, and this other guy gets caught up, right? And it all tracks back to this thing where they're charging somebody with a superseding indictment with obstructing investigation. And it looks like on those two different things, specifically 2012 congressional campaign with Brady and a 2014 congressional campaign with Margolis, a Clinton ally, a Clinton family person, like related now at this point. Okay. So then this thread points to her husband. And this. Okay, so this guy's name was Edward Mezvinsky, and his wife Marjorie became close to U.S. President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton in the 90s. They met at a Renaissance weekend in South Carolina, yada yada. Criminal activities. the good part, Let's get to the good part. So in March of 2001, he was indicted and pled guilty to 31 felony charges of bank fraud, mail fraud, and wire fraud. So a bunch of money laundering stuff, basically. Nearly $10 million was involved in the crimes, and that's only what they caught. Who knows? But shortly after the indictment, he was diagnosed with bipolar and tried to use that as a mental illness defense. Didn't work. Went to prison. Served his time in federal prison. His wife requested a pardon through the Clintons, but they didn't give it to him. So he served his time, okay, and he did about 5 years in prison. And probation for another couple years, 3 years. And still owes a bunch of money in restitution. So the Clintons owe him something. Think about that. They owe him. This dude went to prison for 5 years for being involved in money laundering, and he didn't squeal or talk or anything. So there is a clear line from this guy, okay, mentioned in the Justice Department superseding indictment of obstruction, okay, who's connected to getting a woman elected who the Clintons owe something to, through her husband. And I think they're divorced now. Anyway, it says they go way back. So this is a really terribly formatted article. Talks about buying Mark, Mr. and Mrs. Mark, so Chelsea Clinton and her husband. That guy's the woman who failed to be elected in 2014, bought a 5,000 square foot apartment, wow, in Manhattan's Madison Square Park for $10 million. Wow. A $10 million figure, too. That sounds familiar from earlier. Okay, so the crazy part is Bob Brady, the guy that did get elected in 2012. Okay, the first guy mentioned in the cover-up, it looks like he's tied to the Clintons, and he was in the room. Okay, that guy was in the room when Hillary Clinton was giving her Benghazi testimony. I think that's where she said, like, what difference does it make now or something? So, they're saying, is it a coincidence that in 24 to 36 hours we have impeachment charges against 4 Democrat judges? And I kind of looked at that, and I think all I could see, hey, what's up, Anderson? I think all I could see was this, that like it's being called for over this gerrymandering case, and that's just from a few weeks ago, about 5 weeks ago. So I don't know if that's it. I wanted to drop this in at the end. So this is a Q post from March 17th. So it's during the same amount of time, man, just a couple days ago. It says Trump admin version 2.0, about ready to get a brand new cabinet, I think, with no globalists, all MAGA agenda. And this election theft was their last hope with a congressional focus to impeach. They have to win those seats, otherwise they can't impeach. So I'm out of time, though. Hope you got something. This is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.